are live. Namanda, 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 namanda. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Nice to have a service today and live and virtual as well. So, and a family service. So, kind of nice to settle back down into our normal routine here. So, for today's service, go over our service order for today. We'll have the reading of the three treasures, and then the Rai-Sanmon, the three treasures in Japanese. And I'll take my seat upon the altar to chant the Sambujo and the Junirai. So I believe Junirai is page 67 in our purple books. And Nembutsu and Ekoku will complete the chanting portion of our service. And then I'll return for a Dharma message. Okay. So with that, did you find me? Okay. Reading of the three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. When we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment, and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma, May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teachings. Tai Luong. Ninjin ukegatashi imasude ni uku, uppo kikigatashi imasude ni kiku, konomi konjo ni mukatte dosezumba, sarani izure no shou ni mukatte kako no mi o dosen, daishu moro tomo ni shishin ni sambo ni kieshi tatematsuru beshi, mizukara butsu ni kieshi tatematsuru, masani negawaku wa shijo to tomo ni daido o taige shite mujoi o okosan, mizukara ho ni kieshi tatematsuru, masani negawaku wa shijo to tomo ni fukaku kyozo ni irite chie umi no gotoku naran, mizukara so ni kieshi tatematsuru, masani negawaku wa shijo to tomo ni daishu o tori shite issai muge naran. Mujojin jin mimyo no ho wa yaku 1000万号にも愛をことかたし、我今見聞し従事することを得たり、願わくば如来の真実義を消し立てますな。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。三部長12来。ナマンダー、ナマンダー、ナマンダー。 現上苦行 諸無無常無我と百行水月伝如老一種説法無明寺古賀将来皆尊一尊不説無悪名薬無明に悪道不主任死心教非尊古賀将来皆尊一尊無量法勉強無無所修悪知識往生不退死無大古賀将来皆尊仮説一尊功徳寺修善無変如海水小逆前言小乗者永世修上昇以降Good morning again. We're growing as we chant. So for today's talk, I'll talk a little bit about what is good and what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. So all around us in the world, in the news, we hear. We're surrounded by opinions, judgments of right and wrong, good and bad. We have to make our own choices of such things, and it seems like so many things are calling us to make a decision, make a choice these days, especially these days. It's not always easy to evaluate. And recently, Fujimoto sensei of Senshin, he shared a story that's kind of reflecting on our abilities or limitations on how we come to make those kinds of decisions. Okay, so a lot of people, they think that Buddhism is not judgmental, and so that appeals to them. They like that about Buddhism, that we're more open-minded, maybe more accepting of circumstances and people, situations, and so I think when we think about Jodo Shinshu, the Buddhist perspective, Shinran always says we are foolish beings, so we have these limitations of greed, anger, and ignorance, self-centeredness, and all these limitations that we have, and so it's difficult to clearly decide what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, and it kind of depends on the situation, the place, the time, and what we think might change. So it's more like a case-by-case basis that we are open to, rather than trying to draw a line that accommodates everything. So let me share this Wasan by Shinran Shoni. Please join me in Gasho. While persons ignorant of even the characters for good and evil all possess a sincere mind, I make a display of knowing the words good and evil. This is an expression of complete falsity. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. So in this Wasan, Shinran is pointing out that even uneducated people, maybe they might know the word that says good, the word that says evil, but still, in their hearts, they are sincere people. But Shinran, he puts on this air of knowing he's an educated person, so he knows the words, the characters of good and evil. So he knows this distinction. He can talk about these things, but to think that he knows what they actually means is completely false. So he's doing this self-reflection of how limited he is to be able to determine good and evil, right and wrong. So when Shinran wrote this Wasan, he was 88 years old, and he lived to be 90. So, so late in age, he's still doing this kind of reflection and thinking about how limited his own perspective is, how his attachments change or hold back his view of clearly being able to see good and evil. Right? So this is how Jodo Shinshu followers see this as well. And in this, maybe on a positive note, the Jodo Shinshu followers can see they become flexible, and they can more easily accept or adapt to many different situations. And we see this as trying to see things from this angle or that angle, my perspective, their perspective, and you take all these things into consideration, right? So something that's good in my perspective might not be so from another's perspective, and we take that into consideration. So the story that Fujimoto Sensei shared is a story about a golden eagle and a turtle dove. So I'll share this story with you today. So in a town in Japan, there was an old scholar. He had retired, and his favorite things was to birdwatch. So he would go up into the forest from his home, hike into the mountainous area, and go up and up, and he would birdwatch up there. And so he would do this, daily, and he really enjoyed this. And then on one day, he came across seeing a golden eagle, big, huge bird. He was so impressed that he would watch this golden eagle and see where it nested. And so he thought, how fortunate he was to be able to find such a sighting And so every morning he would go up there with his binoculars and looking forward to just watching this magnificent bird and viewing that. He would spend the whole day just sitting, binoculars, maybe different angles. The nest is growing. And so as he was watching, after a few weeks, a chick was born in that nest. Baby eagle was born. And so he's wondering how this baby eagle is growing and all these things. And he was just delighted that he could be witnessing such a sight. And then after about 5 days or 6 days, he noticed something seemed funny. The mother eagle wasn't coming back. So he's getting kind of concerned. And so the next day again, the mother did not return. Gee, this is really funny. This is not good. And so he's imagining the chick is getting hungry, probably not able to eat. And if he doesn't do something, she's not going to be able to survive. So the mother's still not coming back. So he decided to take the chick home. So he climbed up and took the baby eagle, put it in a box, and took it home. Okay, so he showed it to his wife, and the baby eagle is just adorable, and they're looking at this baby bird in wonder. They decided to name it. They called it Kamui, and in the Ainu language, this is the word for divine spirit. Okay, so Kamui. And so they took care of Kamui every hour, basically, feeding him a little bit, make sure he's comfortable, make sure he's safe, and they check on him repeatedly throughout the day. And a month passed away, the baby bird is growing, it's getting bigger and stronger, starting to flap his little wings, right? And a couple months later, it's getting even bigger, wings are getting stronger, and the old scholar is imagining you'll have to let Kamui go very soon and let him live his own life, and even thinking about that, he's concerned that Kamui, growing with human family, would he be able to find his own food? Would he be able to navigate and fly as he needs to? And so just wondering if it's going to be wild enough to take his place where he should be out in nature. So he has this kind of fear of Kamui returning to the wild. And even once he set him free, maybe he'll never see that bird again, right? So he had these thoughts as he's considering the day when he's going to let Kamui go very soon. Then nearby, maybe a mile from the scholar's house, there was a different family, a little boy, 3rd grade. Okay? So he found a bird, moving in the bushes, and he looked and he saw this little turtle dove, and it seemed to be injured. So he cut the little dove, and the wing was injured. So he took it home and put him in a box. So poor thing. And he tried to support the wing so it wouldn't, maybe it could heal a little bit better, a little more comfortably. And so he looked after the bird all night long, and he wasn't sure. But he's looking, trying to put the support, and it's the first time he was so worried he couldn't sleep all night, stayed up all night. So the next morning his eyes are red, he had to go to school, so he left for school. But he's thinking about the little turtle dove all the time he's in school, ran home from school. Mom, is he still alive? And so he checked, and the bird is still alive, and so he petted the little turtle dove, and the dove coos back in response, knowing that he's been getting a little bit of care from this boy. And so the boy decides to name the dove Azusa. So Azusa is the little dove. His father built a small coop in the backyard, and so now Azusa has a home in their residence. Okay? And the boy is really happy. Watches over Azusa every day, and, feeding him and getting him stronger. Similar story. And so one time he had a dream. So in his dream, he's flying with Azusa. And so the bird turns to him and says, "Thank you. Because of you, I'm able to fly again. So thank you, thank you." And so he remembers this dream of the two of them flying together. And then one day he heard kind of a thrashing in the pen. So he ran out there, and his father's out there too, and he's bouncing against the wire mesh of his fence and just getting stronger. The father says, "He's getting ready to fly. We're going to have to let him go soon." And so the boy nodded, but he's real sad, thinking that he's going to lose Azusa. And so the dad said, "In a few more days, the weather will be nice, so we'll take him and let him go." And the boy's really sad. He didn't want to lose Azusa, wanted to keep him at home. But the father says, "The weather's good now. We should take him up in the mountains." The boy put him in a box and had him in his lap. They drove up into the hills. And so the boy took Azusa, and coming out of the car, said, "Okay, now let him go." And he let the dove go. And the dove circled a couple of times as if to say goodbye. And Azusa was so happy. The father was saying the cage is suffocating for him, so he's better off now. And so he took off. The bird is flying. So as it's going, then suddenly there's a shadow over the bird. Okay? And the Azusa kind of tries to dodge away, and boom, he got hit. And the boy goes, "Ah!" And somewhere else in the mountain, the old man's going, "Yeah!" Right? He's so happy. So Kamui, he had raised this eagle, and he wasn't sure he could live, but there was the proof. He dived down and got this turtle dove, snatched it out of the air, and proof that the eagle is going to be able to live and fend for himself and navigate his life in the wild. So he was so happy. He was just delighted. Okay? So the old man is thinking about all those days when he took the bird home, wondering if it's going to survive, seeing how it grew, how it grew, how it grew, finally letting the eagle go. And the little boy screaming didn't reach the ears of the old man. And even if he heard it, he would have probably thought it was a cheer for Kamui, right? So as we hear this story, now we get into the story of the eagle, and we identify with that portion of the story, right? And then we hear about the little boy and the turtle, that portion of the story. So we want a happy ending for each, but they conflict in the reality of it. So depending on how we see things, which side we see things from, we have a different perspective, right? So many things. Think about war, how things are described, we think about the beginnings of America, and the pilgrims settled in this country. The Native Americans have a completely different story, right? We've been here all along. What are you talking about? Right? And so it really depends. And so many situations that we come across even now too call for us, and depending on which group we identify with. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But sometimes it's not so clear, is it? And it depends on where we place our perspective, and it's not so easy. And so oftentimes we do want to check ourselves. We do want to remind ourselves of our limitations, of our attachments, and this is what Buddhism is telling us to do. Through the Nembutsu, we take this bigger view, take a step back, reevaluate, and then we go on. And oftentimes we take the information as well as we can in a case-by-case basis. Maybe it's more fitting. and to draw a line over so many things. Maybe it's easier, but maybe it's not always so fitting. So it's not a clear-cut thing. Things are not black and white, and we don't insist that they need to be made black and white. And this is more of the Buddhist perspective. So please join me in Gassho, and we'll read Shinran Choni's quote once again. All persons ignorant of even the characters for good and evil all possess a sincere mind. I make a display of knowing the words good and evil. This is an expression of complete falsity. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Okay. So thank you everyone for being here. It's nice to have service together and to hear some chanting voices behind me. I'd like to thank everyone who prepared for the service. We have flowers and fruits and rice offerings and all these things, and cameras are all set up to prepare. Others are helping people are helping each other to take their temperatures and checking them in, to sit down and be able to be here live and in service. And others at home have set up to make their couch even more comfortable, preparing to Oshuoko at home and having your sutra chanting ready and participating with us. And we appreciate all those things. So thank you again. We'll conclude with Gassho one last time, and the incense is burning, so we can come up and Oshuoko. Okay. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Right, please come up and Oshuoko. Hey, how you doing? Maybe? I can this is here. I got water, I could have water to bring it around. What you got around? Over here. Can you do that? Okay. Pardon? Yeah. I'll get the coffee. That's right.